Starting with news from Hong Kong. Hong Kong has unveiled a new controversial guideline for school kids as young as 6. Now, children will be taught about foreign interference and subversion as part of the new national security curriculum. They will also learn about offences under the law like secessionist activities, and the latest courses are based on the contentious law which was imposed on Hong Kong last year after months of anti-China protests. Now, Beijing has issued guidelines to the city's Education Bureau as it attempts to curb dissent. As per the guidelines, books endangering national security will be removed from the course. Schools have been asked to introduce courses on foreign interference, PLA as protector of Hong Kong, and global challenges faced by China. Children will be taught about how to respectfully listen to the national anthem. Students and teachers will also be barred from participating in activities deemed as political, like shouting slogans. School principals are required to inspect notice boards and remove pamphlets that are deemed as harmful to the nation. And now for more on this, we are being joined by a correspondent from Hong Kong, Richard Kimber. Richard, what can you tell us about the new courses and the changes to the educational structure?
Well, this is very wide-ranging. These new guidelines cover students from the age of 6 all the way through to the end of their time in high school. They involve the teaching at a very young age of the 4 main crimes that have been outlined under the national security law. And then as children become older, more information is being pushed their way, involving explaining to them the complexities of how the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region relates to the main Chinese government, and how all of the legislation that is under Hong Kong's authority is effectively under Beijing's greater authority, to try and help school children better understand the relationship that Hong Kong has with Beijing. So this is affecting children across the age groups, and also specifically affecting not just local curricular schools but also international schools operating here. That's a particular area of concern for some people in the business community, because the expat population here is really quite strong and quite large and a fundamental part of the business fabric of Hong Kong. So there are some concerns that this could also affect the international community in Hong Kong as well.
Yes, of course, this is being seen as an attempt to crush dissent, and schools have been asked to introduce courses on foreign interference, PLA is protector of Hong Kong, about how to listen to the national anthem and the global challenges faced by China. What do you think is the motive behind this?
Well, the government is saying this is a natural extension of the existence of the national security law. They say this should not be deemed as being as controversial as some people are making it out, because they say it's essential for the public in Hong Kong to fully understand the reason why this national security law exists and how it should be used. And they want that to start from the children education level up, rather than just pitching all this rhetoric towards adults. One area of concern for the government has been that in the 2019 protest movement, many young people, older high school kids and university students, became very heavily politicized during that movement, and really made up a large proportion of many of the people on the streets in the latter part of the protests, as the protests became more violent. So they're really keen to try and make sure that at a young age the population of Hong Kong becomes, in their words, more self-aware of their nationality, and effectively more in tune with the government's idea of what it's trying to promote, which is Hong Kong's integration with China, and it's, in their words, inalienable part of being part of the fabric of the Beijing political setup.
All right, Richard, but of course, on that note, of course, this has sparked controversy. And what can you tell us about the opposition on these guidelines?
Well, this inevitably has sparked a lot of anger and frustration among democracy campaigners, activists, and just many parents too, who are concerned about the way that Hong Kong is changing so quickly since the introduction of this law just a year ago. They're worried that these types of guidelines, if followed to the letter, could mean that the type of education that their children are getting now is nothing like the type of education they were getting just 1 year ago. There used to be a far more open level of independence, if you like, among the education system with regards to how schools operated. There was a subject called liberal studies, which has now been tweaked and amended by the government, which was really the way in which many of these students had a more broad outlook on global politics. That's now been interfered with by the government, and these guidelines really the last thing that many democracy campaigners were hoping for. They're arguing that this is a type of propaganda. Some people are saying it's brainwashing, and another criticism that's been levelled at this is that the national security law the government used to say was only going to affect a very small minority of people who are breaking the rules. Now these campaigners say by virtue of guidelines like this, it's effectively affecting everybody in the population, from kids all the way through until adulthood.
Indeed, Richard, this is the last thing that the democracy movement protesters were hoping for. But thank you so much for joining us and for all the details on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.